I have two things.
Sure.
My neighbor had a sty, and I've been treating her eye 2 minutes, her eyes closed, 1 minute with 30 seconds with her eye open, and then 30 seconds with her eye closed. So a total of 3 minutes. And within 3 treatments, the sty opened up and pus and blood came out, and she was like thrilled, just thrilled. It's been 5 treatments now, and I saw her last night. I will see her today again. And the sty, you can barely see it.
Wow.
Yeah. She's so excited. And she told me she would talk to you, Jonathan. She wanted to tell you how happy she was. So I wanted to share that. So it works for styes. And so the ophthalmologist didn't believe her and wants to see her on Monday because they wanted to do surgery. She had been suffering with this for 2 months.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and then my neighbor has a dog that could not walk. 14 years old. And so I let her use the small panel, the small little one.
Yeah.
And she told me after 5 days, the dog was pretty much running around the block. So very exciting. And a dog doesn't know what's going on.
No placebo, exactly.
No placebo.
Yes, it is not going to convince itself.
No, exactly.
The owner probably didn't even tell him, this is a red light therapy, it's going to help you.
Right.
Maybe he or she did, but it's pretty irrelevant at that point. This certainly is.
I mean, they were carrying the dog in a stroller. They either carried her or they put it in the stroller because it just couldn't walk. It could not. So.
And what does that mean to this person?
Oh, they're thrilled. They're so ecstatic.
It takes a lot of courage to go through what we've been through.
The doctors themselves are coming more and more because they say, hey, I'm not the same.
I laid in bed for 6 months with this raging pain.
One of the things that we have to have the courage to do is to act upon the information we have in front of us.
And what's the success of some of these therapies? What are you seeing as the results?
Well, I think what we're seeing is a great deal of promise.
So we need this solution because it will create a cancer from here to 2030.
Hey, it's Jonathan Otto and welcome to episode 4, Hidden Invaders, the truth about parasites lurking inside your body. We have organisms living inside us at this moment. Some are beneficial and essential for our well-being, while others live off our health, stealing our energy and gradually eating away our life force. It's not bacteria, but something much worse, parasites. Parasites are a genuine health problem. It might even be the hidden epidemic that sadly mainstream medicine isn't talking about. One study published in PubMed disclosed that almost 60% of the world's population is infected with intestinal parasites, 60% of the entire population around the world. And this number is just a rough estimate. I'm saying it's closer to 100%, but these are conservative numbers. These kinds of parasites don't just reside in your intestines, they can even invade and reside inside your muscles, brain, liver, and even the heart. And the worst thing, you might not even realize that they're there at all. And while Big Pharma and mainstream medicine want to keep you in the dark, the reality is we live in a world infested with parasites. It's not only a developing country problem or third world problem, it's the problem of countries worldwide, and arguably especially developed countries that are using pesticides that are destroying gut bacteria, etc., which is your major defense against parasites. So think about that. The Western world may be the most at risk. Another study also published in PubMed declared that chronic parasitic infections can devastate your immune system, bringing diseases that modern doctors have no idea how to diagnose or treat. They'll just diagnose it as some other disease and never even consider a parasitic infection. To start off this episode, we have Karen McLean, a brave woman who lived for years trapped in a medical mystery nobody seemed to be able to solve or even willing to solve. Karen's symptoms felt like torture. Strange sensations crawled through her body, constant fatigue drained her energy, and she endured severe digestive pain that doctors dismissed as normal. Despite countless appointments and endless tests, conventional medicine offered her no relief, just confusion and frustration. And one appointment changed everything. An integrative practitioner revealed a shocking truth hidden in plain sight. Parasites have been silently thriving inside her, fueling her chronic inflammation, gut distress, and debilitating brain fog. Karen's journey isn't just about reclaiming her health. It's about confronting a disturbing truth. Many of us might unknowingly harbor these hidden invaders. Her story could redefine the way you see your own body and finally help you understand the symptoms doctors keep ignoring.
My name is Karen McNeil. I've lived in this area, Dallas, for a very long time and have generally been healthy until my late 60s and started seeking alternative health care. I had been to see a number of doctors over the years, allopathic doctors, and I was not progressing with my treatments. I had stomach issues and brain fog, and was just concerned that I wasn't going to thrive if I didn't get some help. So a friend suggested that I come to Dr. Rodney Russell. My initial visit with Dr. Russell, he took an extreme amount of time with me to take my history and to do a physical exam and then to do some treatments. And most of what I learned from him was an education as far as how to change my lifestyle, as far as the different protocols that he suggests for his patients. And I really felt an initial connection with him in that he was very concerned about my health and my well-being, and that he would be able to guide me. And I had work to do, but that he would be able to guide me toward health. We immediately did some testing for parasites. That was very helpful, and I did have that, and he had the solution. So within a year, they were all cleared up. And also the blood work and hormones that, to test all of those and see where I was at that point. And one thing that was particularly helpful for me was the food sensitivity test. It tests about 212 foods. It's not that you're allergic to them, but that you're sensitive to them. So I discovered that I was allergic or sensitive to a couple of things that I ate every day. And once I stopped that, I stopped those 3 items, and the burning on my feet stopped immediately that day. I didn't have it ever again. So unusual. It was almonds, eggs, and onions, which I ate some form of that almost every day. Almond milk, almond flour, almond for snacks. And I cooked with onions. I definitely did have, symptoms of leaky gut. So we worked on that as well. The sensitivity to it was a buildup. So my feet burned very badly at night. Like I had fire ant bites all over the bottom of my feet. And there was nothing there. There was no redness. There were no bumps. There were no bites. Just the reaction to the buildup of those foods. When I had the food sensitivity test done, and he directed me not to eat those anymore, It stopped that very day. And I've never had it again. Of course, I don't eat eggs anymore. Some people break out in a rash, from eating something. So mine was on my feet, and it was extreme. It was difficult to sleep, and there wasn't anything I could take for it. What do you take for burning feet? He did put me on a CBD, liquid CBD, and that seemed to help with the brain fog, with anxiety that I was having at the time. And I continued taking it for a number of years. It was a minimal dose, but it did seem to help. The thing that I noticed about Dr. Rodney is I'm in the office regularly because I see other practitioners here and I buy supplements here. So I'm here when he walks to the front to pick up his next patient. And you can see in the way that they connect that he has developed a bond with his patients and that he can really treat the whole person that way when he's that connected and that close. And I see this in the way that he greets his patients, every time I'm in the office. What sets him apart is, I believe, his incredible intellect and his intuition and his ability to connect with the patient. So it's on a level of something that I've never been able to experience with any other doctors. So I've recommended him to friends and family. My daughter-in-law hopefully will be in here soon. She's got severe problems. I just have such admiration and genuine love for him as a person and as my physician. And I really feel like that I could always recommend him. On my first visit with him, he did a physical connection. I was on the exam table, and he did something that no other doctor's ever done. He put his hand on my wrist and just closed his eyes and tuned in to my body as far as what was going on. And he did the same thing on the other wrist. And then he started to, move a muscle or a joint just to check things. And he found, and I had not told him this, he found that I had my diaphragm had seized up, and it was still somewhat seized up from years ago. So I have an issue there, and I didn't tell him anything about it. But a few years before, I had gone to the emergency room because they thought I was having a heart attack. It's the diaphragm seized, and when it did, it squeezed the esophagus and pinched a little hernia that I had, and it caused me extreme pain. Went to the hospital. They thought I was having a heart attack, so they put me through all the tests. And it was not that. It was simply that the diaphragm had seized up. So without me saying anything to him, he had no knowledge of this, and he immediately found that and told me. And he did a release treatment on it at that point. So he's been very helpful in that. He also prayed for me at that time that he would be led and guided to discover what my issues were. So I always feel very, very comfortable with him in the fact that he's very forthright in the fact that he's a believer and that his just connects with his patients. I have a hiatal hernia, so he does a release. That's the best way I can describe it. But the diaphragm, when he worked on that for me, he literally went with his fingers underneath my rib cage to find the seized part and released it, because only he knows how to do those kind of things. One of the interesting things that he has done with me that's helped me so much is that he does what is called applied kinesiology or muscle testing. Because he can test a certain supplement for me, then I know whether or not it is it's good for my body at that time. Because I had been taking some hormones, DHEA, and I've been taking it for years. It's prescribed by my medical doctor. But recently, he muscle tested and said that at this time, it was not good for my body. I didn't need to be taking it anymore. So he helped me to eliminate some of the supplements that I was taking simply by testing the energy that those supplements had and how they agree with my body, because our body is energy. So he's able, with his, intuitive sense to test those for me. So it's been extremely helpful. There's something else that Dr. Russell does for his patients, and he has, again, that intuitiveness that he can actually sense built up emotions, built up anxieties, and maybe a source for those. So he would ask me to work on those, perhaps a forgiveness of something that I needed to take care of to reduce the anxiety and the stress level in my body, which would help me to heal. I think that people who have been ill for a long time and have been to many, many doctors trying to find an answer, and they don't, that maybe they want to consider another path. And when you see Dr. Russell and you connect with him, he will show you a different path. And it will, if you are willing to do the work and cooperate, then it leads you on your path to wellness and to healing.
Up next, we have Dr. Diana Wright, who shares groundbreaking insights about the overlooked causes of cancer. For years, mainstream medicine has focused on genetics and lifestyle factors, but Dr. Wright reveals that there are actually 4 major vectors that cause cancer: bacteria, viruses, parasites, and fungus or fungi. She explains how Candida fungus, which is present in everyone, could be responsible for up to 50% of all cancer cases, yet can be addressed with something as simple as daily kimchi consumption. Dr. Wright also uncovers the forgotten work of Royal Raymond Rife from the 1930s, whose electrical frequency treatments reportedly cured 100% of patients before his lab was mysteriously destroyed. She points out that parasites are a vastly under-recognized problem, with approximately 60% of cancer patients having parasitic infections which go untreated. Most importantly, Dr. Wright reveals why annual deworming, a practice largely ignored in modern medicine, could be essential for preventing serious disease, and shares an affordable alternative to expensive prescription medications. After that, Dr. Carlos Garcia, Medical Director for Utopia Wellness and Cancer Center in Tampa, Florida, joins us to challenge our understanding of how disease develops in the body. Dr. Garcia explains how viruses, bacteria, and parasites can be pleomorphic, meaning that they can change form to evade treatment, which may explain why cancer often responds to chemotherapy initially before developing resistance. But the real revelation comes when he explains that cancer operates on its own electrical grid that's invisible to the immune system. Dr. Garcia shifts our focus away from blaming microorganisms and instead frames cancer as an immune deficiency. His revolutionary approach centers on uncovering why the immune system fails in the first place, whether due to dental issues, emotional trauma, nutritional deficiencies, or hidden infections. Hey there, it's Jonathan Otto. Wow, I'm blown away. These results that we're seeing are spectacular. Is it not amazing to see everything that's happening? I've waited for the moment that we're in right now, where we had so many tools available to people and so many cost-effective, and most of which are even completely free therapies that could help people turn around their lives in days, weeks. It's amazing, and we continue to see it. We intentionally continue to show you these stories for two reasons. One, I want you to know what people did, the specific tools, the protocols, so that you can use them. And secondly, I want you to know that there's hope with whatever you or a loved one is struggling with. So many people are accepting things as normal. These things aren't normal. We don't need to be going through these things, because there are solutions that exist, and these solutions are amazing. And so I'm thrilled that we're able to offer you the most life-changing program with Healing Revolution, with our silver and gold packages. With our gold package, I'll emphasize what we have there, because some of these things are very unique, and it's something that I've been working on for really the past decade. And when we customize the supplement protocol, the information, it's like three phases. The information to give you knowledge, and many of these pieces of information then give you direct access to tools and therapies. Chlorine dioxide is one that you've seen us continue to emphasize. It is a lifesaver. Somebody that just got referred to me just because they were a friend of a friend, I can't just kind of go to what I need to do with giving you this content and leave somebody out. And that's it's really what makes what I do powerful. It's the fact that we're deep in the trenches, and I would never say no, and I would never stand by and let something happen when I knew I had the tools available. And when with this case, it's like a lifeline. We're watching this woman, I won't say her name, but respond with the chlorine dioxide with the stage 4 cancer case that when this now a friend, as of the last few days, really, it's really, I've only known them for about 4 days, but this case, he didn't even think he could get to the back home into the pharmacy to grab a couple of tools there, like an enema kit and that type of thing. And he didn't even know if he was going to make it back to the hospital in time. And then as we've got the CDS through the IV and through the enema drip, it's like a lifeline. Not only is it keeping her alive, but it's giving her body what it needs to actually reverse this cancer. There's a lot of things that I can't say, and chlorine dioxide is one of the things that I wish I didn't know about sometimes because of the risks that are associated with it. But I want you to know about this. It's that important. And so there's so many tools that you'll learn. As I mentioned, you've got the information, and then urine therapy is an example of a completely free therapy where you get around $5 million worth of stem cells as an adult every year from your own body. If you want it, it's there, like with the Wake Forest study, 100 million stem cells after 3 weeks. So it's a very fascinating study. You can look that up by just looking up those keywords. But these are examples of information then connecting to therapies that are life-saving. Then secondly, you have the supplement protocol, that it then means that you've got information, but then you need the tools so that you can go ahead and perform these. And one of the things that sets us apart is that we have a sequence, that it's not just one thing. And often you'll land at a page and then they'll tell you, like, probiotics, it's the thing, or postbiotics, it's the thing, or digestive enzymes, it's the thing, or liver cleansing, it's the thing. But then people then try these things and they typically say, look, it didn't work. It's because it did probably work, maybe, but it was needing to be supported with other aspects. And the one that always gets missed is that this sequence of detoxing and fortifying and replenishing the gut flora, and then combining that with light therapy and to activate those ingredients in the formulas, in the supplements, but also to support the oxygenation of your cells and the nitric oxide production, the reactive oxygen species that are produced by your body, the positive, that actually clear out senescent cells and create this process called mitophagy. All of these things, very, very important. Mitophagy is where your mitochondria are undergoing apoptosis, programmed cell death, and then you're able to close down the old program, get rid of the senescent, which are zombie-like cells, both cells and mitochondria, and then pave the way for new, healthy, vivacious mitochondria and prolific stem cell growth, regeneration. These are key tools that you need to know about. And so the combination of what we've done in this program is truly a life changer. And we've done the research on all of these ingredients and how they're activated by different wavelengths of light, red and near infrared. That's why with this belt that we're giving you inside the program, it has both red and near infrared. And you'll see this here. And here it is on the lowest setting on L1. Let's put it up to L4. Now we've got it on its highest setting, which I'd recommend. Again, consult with your healthcare provider. This is not intended to treat, cure, or diagnose any condition. So you do what you think you should do based on research. And so then you can put this over the affected areas. And most importantly, as this gets into your body, wherever it's getting into your body, as you're taking these herbal formulas, it's going to activate those amazing ingredients in your body. So that's a game changer. Yeah, there's pulsation right there. So I can pulsate that here on the highest setting. And you could use the pulsation method also and experiment. Ideally, for me, it's my go-to is not pulsation, but it's up to people in their research. But those tools are available. And so with this, it's a limited opportunity because we have limited inventory on our red light product and on our supplements. So make sure to grab it here while it's available. Like literally just pause the video, grab it now. It's so important. And you're getting these as free gifts. It's a $422 supplement program, which involves para-free detox. You got 2 bottles because we want you to have a really prolific and effective parasite cleanse. The Gut Flora Pro, the 15-day cleanse, the Kidney Support Gut Repair 360. It's such an important formula. And the gut cleanse and liver support and the nattokinase. So these all go together, and you'll be given an instruction sheet on how to take these during that 60-day time period. And then you'll continue to use the red light therapy throughout that time. And so you've been seeing some of the case studies. I was really touched by the gentleman last night that shared, or depending on when you're watching this, but it was in the previous episode, what he shared was his fatigue, his some different marks and blemishes and eruptions on his face getting turned around. The anxiety that he was facing was turned around, and same with his girlfriend who has lupus, and so them seeing tremendous success in a 2-month period with the red light therapy belt, and that really touched me. And then imagine what's going to happen when he adds in the supplement protocol. These things go together so well. So just an overview quickly on the rest of the things you get. You're getting 2 live master classes, uninvited guests, how parasites drain your energy and cloud your mind, autism, ADHD, and the immune system. You've got the uncensored, expert-led master classes, health beyond the system, healing from the earth, building a cancer-resistant body, secret science of healing. And then you've got the 9 Healing Revolution books, as well as the 5-part mini-series, Detoxing the Modern World. And so much more. There you go. I had a red light there in the background, and I just set it so it had the blue lights, which are actually amazing for circadian rhythm. Unlike the ones in the home, they're consistent. They don't flicker, and because of that, you're actually getting the therapy of that blue light. Like when you see a rainbow, it's actually therapeutic. It's not a problem. The sunlight has blue light as well, but skin rejuvenation, killing bacteria. But I just had that, so it would light up the background here. But I'm wrapping this video up, so I'm not going to reset my props here. But this is a really big game changer, and you're getting also a free autoimmune health assessment with a specialized health consultant, as well as, of course, when you're purchasing this, really what you're purchasing is the 12 brand new Healing Revolution episodes and the 12 bonus episodes, as well as the 60 full-length interviews and so much more. And so you're getting a great discount of over 77% off on that. And then you're getting all these additional free gifts, which include the 10-day Healing Revolution Challenge, so that community support. So if I'd say that it was 4 things, if I want to add one thing in, it's the community support, because that does a lot of things for people. Just at the time when you're about to give up and didn't even really realize you're about to give up, you take a turn and you end up doing what you need to do, because you just got a thrust of knowledge and information and hope, because you saw others that are getting results in potentially the exact same situation that you're in, and which is so common, because we have thousands of people that are following us and thousands of people that are saying yes and claiming this package. So I don't want you to miss out, because we have such popularity right now. I want to make you aware of that. And so this is selling out in a good way. That means that we're helping a lot of people, and I want you to be one of them. So make sure to grab it here on this page while it's available. Scroll down, place your order, and get all the $4,800 worth of free gifts here on this page. And I look forward to seeing what you think of the rest of this episode. Thanks so much.
There are 4 major vectors that cause cancer, and that would be bacteria, virus, parasites, and fungus, okay? Now, we're all inundated with candida fungus. Everybody has it. Every medicine has candida fungus in it. And so candida fungus has to be ruled out. Now, the easy way to get rid of candida fungus is to eat 1/3 of a cup of kimchi every day. That's the easiest way to get rid of candida fungus. Now, 50% of all cancer is believed to be candida fungus. If you take an antifungal, 50% of the people will be cured with the antifungal. Compare that back to Royal Rife. So when Royal Rife in the 1930s, he used electricity to cure people from all of these different ailments that they had. Now, he cured 100% of the people. Now, if they had parasites, Royal Rife was able to use the electricity to get rid of the parasites. So he used the electricity. Now, what happened to Royal Rife is that AMA came in and burned down everything that he had. The only reason that we have Rife machines today is because he had 3 Rife machines out. But he died a very broke man that was an alcoholic because of what was done to him. He was persecuted out of the business. But then we've got parasites. Nobody thinks it's a virus, okay? And because viruses are basically dead, and they think this is going to be a living thing that causes cancer. So then we have parasites. So parasites, at this point right now, 60% of the people have a parasite that have cancer. Now, everybody needs to be dewormed on an annual basis. Nobody does that. But we need to do that. And one of the things that we can do is use fenbizidone, which is, if you buy it off of Amazon as a dog dewormer for a 10-pound dog, it's not going to cost you very much. But if you go and buy fenbizidone, which is for people, exact same product made in the same lab, then it's going to cost you about $600. So it's very interesting. But anyway, about 60% of the people have a parasite at any one time. We know that we have billions of bacteria in our bodies, and those bacteria, we hope we have more good than bad. And so the good bacteria are what allow us to break down our food, but they also affect everything we do. They affect our thinking and our likes and dislikes and our cravings and everything else. I was very blessed. So my second daughter lives next door to a lady named Stacy. Stacy was her college friend. But she lives next door to her now. They're in their 40s. And Stacy knew Joe Tipton. Joe Tipton was dying of cancer. He had been fighting it. He started out about 225. He was down to about 115 pounds when all this ended. And they gave him probably 3 or 4 weeks left to live. And Stacy called him up and she said, "Joe, I don't know what the doctors are doing at OSU, but you better go find out because they're saving 100% of the dogs that have cancer." And so Joe called, got an old vet on the phone, and the old vet said, "Yeah, I had pancreatic cancer. I followed the dog protocol, and I was able to save myself from the dog with the dog protocol." The protocol is a chemical reaction between fenbizidone, CBD, vitamin E, and turmeric. Now, turmeric will decrease inflammation. So that has to all be taken together. You can't spread them out. They all have to be taken together. A chemical reaction occurs. Now, Joe Tipton he was one of the 60% that his cancer was caused by parasites. And so he had a total and complete healing. Now, the Tipton protocol, as it's called now, has gone basically viral for everyone to use the fenbizidone. Now, ivermectin is another very powerful protocol. So the fenbizidone gets rid of roundworms, the tapeworms, the whipworms, and one other worm. And the ivermectin gets rid of the bots, which are larvae, and they also get rid of a multitude of worms. So those two together get rid of all parasites. So what some people recommend is ivermectin in the morning, dose to weight, and benzodal at night. And the reason you do the benzodal at night is because the CBD is, some people, the CBD alone could cause sleep. So you do that at night. But the thing about ivermectin is that it must be dosed to weight because it does have side effects. Ivermectin cannot be taken with chlorine dioxide. It's really important that you have someone to guide you on this journey of having a severe disease or cancer, that you have someone who knows what they're doing and a protocol that you follow. I feel like if I wasn't lucky enough to have that in my life. I had to go out and I had to read 80 books and I had to get to be a naturopath. But you need to find someone that can help you through the maze of cancer or advanced disease, because it is very, very emotional. It's very time-consuming. It's expensive, and you need someone who knows what they're doing. And it doesn't really matter to me if you follow my program or someone else's program, but you need someone's program and you need to follow it. You can't take one thing from me and one thing from somebody else, one thing from the oncologist. If you go with a program, go with the program. Don't do a part or a piece of anything, and find a coach. I mean, I think that's the biggest thing that you need when you're going through cancer.
So my name is Carlos Garcia. I'm a medical doctor, so I'm an MD. And I am the medical director for Utopia Wellness and Cancer Center, which is located in Tampa, Florida. And I went to school at the University of Massachusetts Medical School. I then went to Hahnemann University and became an anesthesiologist. I injured my hand. My hand prevented me, or the injury prevented me from being able to be reinsured. So my anesthesia career came to an abrupt halt, which was not part of the game plan. And I was very young. I was like 39 and a half years of age. After surgeries and rehab and all the other aspects associated with any major surgical intervention, I was advised that I was not insurable anymore because my hand was injured. And so therefore, not only was my career terminated because of the injury, but because of the lack of insurability. So I started doing silly things. I mean, after all, I was only 39 and a half and single. And so my friends noticed that I was making relatively silly choices because I had nothing to do with my life. And so they said, you need to go and get a job. I said, I really don't. And they said, you really do. And because of this, and this, you're really needing to get a job. And he said, no, we have one for you. I said, really, where? It's a chelation clinic. I said, what in blazes is chelation? Well, we really don't know, but whatever it is, just go do it because you need to do something. You need a schedule. So I went there and I sat down and I really didn't know what I was doing. And people were talking about vitamin C and vitamin Bs and all these things. And I heard these terms before, but they're not in my wheelhouse. And so I sat there. And one of the things that we always do is take the blood pressures of patients and monitor them and do blood work and so forth. And I noticed that people's blood pressures began to drop, and if they had type 2 diabetes, their requirements of medications, and sometimes all their medications were stopped. And so I went in with the attitude that this is all BS because that's what I'm taught. Everything that you need to know is taught in the U.S. medical schools. Turned out that I'd been lied to. And so then I started to open up my eyes. I came across an organization called ACAM, which stands for the American Academy for the Advancement of Medicine. They gave me a foundation, and then upon that I grew my fund of knowledge on my own because there was no other way to learn except by going out there and beating the bushes. The internet was in its infancy. So you had to dial up. You had, I think, a 1200 baud modem was like, the speed of light at the time. And then I just learned and studied and learned and studied. Truth be told, I've learned more from my patients than they have from me, I suspect. Now, during my studies, I came across a lovely lady named Hulda Clark. Hulda Clark should have changed her name to Hulda Parasite, because everything was a parasitic infection to Hulda. Now, I believe, based on my readings, that viruses, bacteria, and parasites can be pleomorphic, which is a fancy way of saying they can change. And it may explain why it is that it reacts, for example, to chemo initially, cancer cells, and then it stops reacting to chemo because it morphs, because it wants to live. I believe that what we call cancer has its own electrical grid that's not on the immune system's radar screen. And when it is, the immune system reacts to it and keeps us healthy. I believe that people have cancer throughout their lifetimes, come and go, but their immune system keeps them healthy until it doesn't. It's the why it doesn't that is of interest clinically for me. And so when we start talking about root causes, I think it's a multifactorial aspect that leads to the debilitation of the immune system. I don't so much blame the microorganisms. I look at cancer as an immune deficiency. So the question is, why is the immune system deficient? As far as I'm concerned, I don't care if it's because of your teeth. I don't care if it's because of your emotions. I don't care if it's because of your food. I don't care if it's because you have parasitic infections or other kinds of infections that may be found. Its question is, what's caused that immune system to go down the tubes? If we're going to understand cancer, we need to understand why the immune system has failed us. And then we need to figure out how it all combines. One of the problems that we're facing is that we do body parts. So that's one of the reasons I combined a lot of the different practitioners into my facility. So you're going to get your colon therapy in my facility, the massage therapies in my facility. I've had chiropractors come to my facility. We do the emotional work in the facility. We do the physical work as far as hyperbaric chambers, far-red, infrared saunas, and other infusions at the clinic so that we can build up that immune system. But we need to find out what caused it to go sideways so that it doesn't. And more importantly, so that you understand what it is that is toxic in your environment. Because the very first thing I tell everybody, besides say good morning to yourself, is your environment that you came from is the most toxic environment that you'll ever face again. Because the people that you live around have facilitated what we call cancer. And that's one of the things that people have to look at. And when we do the Wednesday talks at Utopia, we talk about the woman who gets a call at 3 o'clock in the afternoon to go bake 500 cupcakes because her friend wants to go out on a Saturday night date, and the other person now has decided to be manipulated into doing the 500 cupcakes because they all know that without those 500 cupcakes, the church is going to close. And so the other lady takes off, and this woman does 500 cupcakes, and in the morning, she's exhausted, and the other lady is freshened up. And by the way, she'll take part of the credit, if not all of it. One of the things that I've noticed about cancer patients is that they have a very low sense of self, by and large. That's why saying good morning to yourself is a very good start at acknowledging that you exist. People will say to their kids, almost robotically, to their spouses, usually, but they never say it to themselves. And after all, the only person who's ever been stuck with you all your life is you. So perhaps you might want to say hi. Because if you've got cancer, you haven't found you. You're lost.
Following Dr. Garcia, we hear from Robert Scott Bell, a homeopath with 30 years of experience and 25 years in broadcasting. He explains that cancer is actually a systemic degenerative condition rooted in chronic inflammation. While inflammation itself is a vital immune response, Robert reveals how unresolved inflammation leads to cellular corruption, where cells lose their ability to die naturally and instead begin encapsulating toxins that the liver cannot process. His approach focuses on resolving this inflammation through proper detoxification, transforming the body from a state of degeneration to regeneration. Up next, we have Dr. Jabin Moore, who specializes in treating patients with complex illnesses that conventional medicine has failed to resolve. Dr. Moore shares his personal battle with Lyme disease, mold toxicity, and parasitic infections that led him to specialize in helping patients with mysterious symptoms like pain, fatigue, brain fog, and nerve tingles. His powerful mission statement says it all. I don't want to be the next practitioner someone sees. I want to be the last one. Dr. Moore exposes hidden environmental dangers that most doctors miss, including the shocking truth about radon gas, an invisible threat that's equivalent to smoking a pack of cigarettes daily. He also reveals how mold in homes can devastate health and shares simple home testing methods anyone can use to identify these threats.
Homeopathic medicine is kind of a universally applicable medicine because it's the energetics that precede the physical material so that we can communicate to the body what it should be doing when it's gone awry or off in a different direction. And so when we talk about homeopaths, they should be the ultimate generalists. That means they can address anything and everything because the symptoms of the body are the guiding kind of focal point for selection of remedy or remedies. So whether you diagnose it and call it a big C word like cancer or something else, we don't care about the name of it. We want to know what's happening, what symptoms are manifesting, and how do they indicate the most appropriate treatment, not in a way to suppress it, but in a way to bring the body back to life so it can normalize and optimize function and therefore become not such a hospitable place for cancer, for instance. Since cancer is a systemic degenerative condition, there are numerous factors that play themselves out within pretty much all chronic diseases, just more severely with certain diagnoses. Inflammation, of course, precedes cancer. Inflammation is not dangerous per se. It's actually a vitally important immune response to temporary assault, injury, infection even. But when it's not resolved, when it goes into a chronic state, then you can see degenerative damage to the cells themselves, where they become corrupted from, engaging in life-sustaining functions, metabolic functions, to never dying, because part of the life cycle of a cell is cell death as well, and then you regenerate new tissue, for instance, in its place. When cancer is present, those cells don't die and they create problems. Often they are encapsulating toxic materials that have been lodged in the body and the liver is unable to process them and get them out of the body. So we look at not only the inflammatory response or immune response, but the detoxification that needs to happen so that the inflammation is no longer chronic, but acute in the phase of regenerating instead of degenerating. There are a lot of ways to go with homeopathy. Some is very specific to each individual issue, like if it's a parasite of one kind and not another, you can actually target some of the action. But there are remedies that have a broader generalized response against, if you will, the parasites. Homeopathic remedies like Cina, C-I-N-A, or artemisinin, that's another remedy that's taken, and some of these can be utilized in homeopathic form and herbal form to facilitate things like wormwood, black walnut, things like that. But oftentimes we can use them in the homeopathic form as well. If you've identified the specific parasite or fungal growth due to a specific strain, there are often homeopathic nosodes that correspond to those things, and that helps the immune system to target and overcome them as well, while you strengthen, hopefully, the detox pathways, the remedies that will help the liver, the kidneys, the colon, things like that, to strengthen it. Because if you kill things in your body, those dead bodies on the battlefield, if they're not removed, can create or be a source for other infectious overgrowth. Could be parasitic, but it could be bacterial, viral, or fungal. Although the viral issue is less truly understood, a lot of theories about what that is. I think one day we'll look back and say, everything they thought about viruses was wrong anyway. Cancer recurrence has become more common post-COVID, particularly COVID injections. There seems to be a disabling of the immune system by those mRNA experimental injections. And so they've been coining this phrase turbo cancer. But oftentimes they're not new cancers. They're often cancers that were considered to be in remission that come roaring back. Of course, it makes sense that if your shot basically disrupts immune function, minimizes it, or even destroys it, that the thing that would hold the cancer cells in check normally is no longer active or functional. Therefore, it can come roaring back. Now we have the accelerated demise occurring. And so I would think it would be a very critical triage-like situation for cancer, which usually cancer is slow enough to be able to, move against holistically. Although there's no form of chemo or radiation or perhaps a surgery even that can outpace this turbo cancer. The idea that I would want to share with everybody is to recognize that no matter what you call the cancer, there are three critical things that you must address. One being, of course, the toxicity, regardless of it called turbo or not. So really get on the detox plan or protocol, or protocols, could be more than one. And then shore up the digestive system for proper assimilation of nutrients, key minerals that are lacking that precipitate the rise of cancers, minerals like selenium particularly, but also chromium plays a huge role, and silica, which is really critical when we go to the third aspect of cancer recovery, and that is shoring up and strengthening connective tissue. Because as I said, cancer cells are not in and of themselves the cause of death unless they grow to the point of metastasis and disruption of all functions of the body. One of the ways they metastasize is spewing out some type of enzyme to chew up through the connective tissue of the body, which then means it can get anywhere it wants. So how do we shore up the connective tissue? I come back to that trace mineral silica or silicon, along with copper, which is often, the allopaths all say copper can cause cancer. I think it's quite the opposite. Their interpretation is wrong, like they usually get these things wrong. Copper is critical like the mortar that holds the brick wall up. If you have bricks that you stack together and no mortar, there's nothing holding it in integrity. It topples right over with the slightest breeze or touch. And so we must bring those minerals back in that allow for connective tissue integrity, thereby restricting the movement of cancer from wherever it may have started and grown, so that you can target it and isolate it there rather than having to deal with the danger of a deadly metastasis. So connective tissue is the overlooked aspect. And if you look at vitamin C or various other minerals, zinc for repair, all of those things depend upon copper for full engagement and functionality. So that's another thing. We do cuprum metallicum, of course, as a homeopathic remedy. We also have silicea as a homeopathic remedy, but these things are also important as a trace element too, and they can work well together. Silver is interesting because most people encounter it and think of it as a natural antibiotic. It's not. It's a natural antimicrobial, but it's much more than that. It can downregulate tissue inflammation on contact. That is, if you deliver to the point of foci or area needing, you have the bioactive, bioavailable form of silver, which is the ion. It will reduce the cytokine storms. Like copper does this systemically, silver does it site specifically. So delivering it to that area. Now that's good because this ongoing inflammation often precedes and precipitates cancer, perhaps by years. But in the context of a very present cancer, the ions of silver are interesting, and nanoparticulates of silver, if you have it in that small enough form to interact with the cancer cells, the ions carry an electrical and oxidative charge or stress to cancer cells that fortunately our healthy mammalian cells are unharmed by because they have an antioxidant defense mechanism. Cancer cells have lost that capacity to defend against electrical and oxidative stress. Therefore, silver can be a powerful adjunct to a holistic or integrative therapy to neutralize cancer very directly. It still doesn't facilitate the removal of the debris. When we talk about the liver pathways, that I come back to copper. Again, copper helping with phase 1 detox pathways, selenium helping with phase 2. And when you understand the process, you can target and neutralize cancer and then deal with the debris and move it or usher it on out. So that more or less completes the task. But I don't want people to think that all they need to do is colloidal silver or silver hydrosol as a silver bullet. it is very critically important, I believe. But if you just think that's it and you do nothing to change your diet or lifestyle or support other factors that, have basically brought rise to the systemic chronic inflammation leading to cancer, then it's kind of an irresponsible, less toxic way, of course. We're not poisoning the body with the silver in this case, but it's not a complete recovery, complete healing. Even as we know, silver has direct oncolytic properties. That means it's stopping cancer replication and the integrity of what's left of that cell.
Hey there, it's Jonathan Otto here, and I'm with Dr. Jabin Moore. Dr. Jabin is a prolific expert in helping to get to the root cause of what's really going on and helping his patients, which he's working clinically, which is great because we get a lot of data from people that are seeing labs and going through, helping a patient get from A to B to C to all the way to Z. And Dr. Jabin Moore is one of these guys that is doing a lot of good and using a lot of protocols that get to the bottom of what's actually going on and using lab testing to determine what's actually going on. And so he can give us a lot of data. Right now he is in Scottsdale, Arizona, and he's picking up the water bottles and showing how the stuff that's coming out of the faucets there is high in uranium because these patients that are from those areas all have high uranium levels. And that's something you'd only know if you're a clinician. Like, that's something that I don't know about people that live in Arizona, Scottsdale. So good to be aware. But anyway, appreciate you, brother. And thanks for joining me, while you're traveling as well.
Oh, thanks for having me. And yeah, I mean, when I travel these days, I always think back to, all right, what client have I had there? What is the thing I need to be aware of? And here, the water, it can wreck people.
Wow. Amazing, man. Yeah. So you want to get those heavy metals out, and the best way to get them out is to not put them in the first place. And then your body can deal with what's in there and, just taking the gas off the fire, stop the fire. So tell me about some of your clinical practice. What's your specialty and your background? And how long you've been doing what you've been doing?
My practice is based out of Kansas City, and we work with people that honestly have those mystery symptoms, don't have answers, or have a chronic illness that they're not getting moving forward. A lot of autoimmune disease, that sort of thing. So the complex chronic illness, which is such a broad term, a lot of people don't even know what it means, but you've got pain, fatigue, brain fog, nerve tingles that just won't go away. And you've been told that's just what you got to deal with. You don't feel good. And the reason I got into this is because I lived it myself. I ended up with Lyme disease when I was 25 years old. And it wasn't alone. I actually had mold toxicity, come to find out back then. Parasites were a part of that journey. So it really drove me into this specific, I don't know, let's call it the rabbit hole, because every time I turn around, I'm researching some new topic to learn how to help that one person that hasn't figured it out. Because my whole goal in this is, it's kind of become my mantra. It's like, I don't want to be the next practitioner someone sees. I want to be the last one.
Yeah, it's great. I love that line. It's a good line. I remember a woman that she'd seen 30 specialists and she'd spent $200,000 and 5.5 years later, and she's still having to get both the legs amputated. Oh. And thankfully, like, all that story ended really well. She kept her legs. She's super slim. She's doing Pilates every day and cycling. And I was grateful to be the last one in that equation. And that she finally got the answers, and she got a sequence of what she needed for healing. And her issue was parasites. But it's just like knowing what's going on. Like, for example, she tested negative twice on a parasite test. So you'd say, well, I did the parasite test, but thankfully she listened to me when I said, just do the cleanse itself and let's see what happens. And it took her months, right? But then she started, feeling like a different person, and she had vasculitis, which is causing the need for leg amputation. These are Cleveland Clinic. Like, it wasn't that she was getting butchered by people that don't know what they're doing. She was getting butchered by people that did know what they were doing, but still didn't have any better solutions.
I've definitely had people walk out of those, I just call them the big box clinics. They're famous for emergency medicine. They're famous for procedures and whatever is their mainstream version, whatever diagnosis is there. And it's so interesting to me because I've had them come with labs, like literally 2-3 inches thick of paper to my clinic. And they're just like, all right, well, this is what, they gave me. And they said they couldn't find anything. And I sit down and I just start strumming through like all this paperwork. One of my first clients that I drove like 8 or 9 hours into my clinic did this. And she actually stopped on her way back from Minneapolis, from one of those clinics, Mayo. And I just started looking through it. And her IgGs, like her ability to produce immunoglobulins, which is how we test for certain infections, were almost zero. So she wasn't going to show anything in IgG, but they were using IgG tests to identify whether or not she had different infections. And then they told her that she was B6 toxic. She didn't take any supplements for it. Her diet wasn't ultra rich in it. They didn't do any genetic testing. I looked at her blood on a microscope and saw bacteria everywhere, just like more bacteria than I saw blood cells. And I go, I think we have a problem here. And we ended up working through Lyme disease. We had to fix a room in her house that had some mold toxicity. We definitely had to hit parasites as a part of that. And I mean, she's now perfectly healthy, happy, has lost 100 pounds, and running her own accounting firm and doing a homestead. And it's just, I was the first person, she said, that ever looked through all of her labs and actually talked about what they meant and then put the puzzle together. But I'm like, how does a doctor see you, understand you, but not look at the labs provided? Like, how do you do that? How do you help someone without knowing their history and their physiology?
Yeah, wow, that's great. That's great. So let's talk about some of these solutions. So obviously, you crack the code with people like this, but then there must be some commonalities, some universal aspects of this that all people can do. For example, is it possible that everyone has some level of chemicals and toxicity with heavy metals, or some spectrum of toxins, and there's some types of things that if they take these binders, you mentioned Fulvic before, and if they keep taking these, they could get some great results? Or other things that you're seeing as common trends and therefore great solutions that are typically correlated and effective?
For sure. I see people walking in every single day that are chronically ill, right? So like the extreme of situations, and they're chock full of glyphosate from our foods, which is a pesticide. We're seeing a ton of DDTs, which is another pesticide. Uranium is so common. It's actually 170 million Americans drinking water has uranium. I actually saw that on Yahoo. That wasn't like some research article that I went deep diving. It was on Yahoo. And then I was like, oh, now I'm going to go deep dive and see the reality here. And you can look up EWG and just see what's in your water supply. And there's uranium for half of the United States. And although if you say you're in Scottsdale, not everyone here is sick. So that by itself isn't enough to completely take a population down, but it's a weight. It's a stress is the word I use in my clinic. It is a stress that is laid on the people of that area. And if they also have a little mold in their house, or maybe they're going through a divorce, or someone passed away in their family, or they're working too much, these stresses are adding up on them and eventually leading to symptoms. So when I think of things that you want to do in your day-to-day life, is one, you want to make sure that you take the opportunity to fix all the easy stuff, is what I call it. Fix the easy stuff. Okay, what's the easy stuff? Make sure you make a non-toxic home. This is talked about a lot, but what does that even mean? Well, that means 90% of the things in your home, curate them to be clean. Like, I'm not drinking out of plastic, even though I have plastic bottles. That's what they bring me from the hotel, right? I take and I put that into a metal container so I can at least decrease some level of plastic into my body. We don't want BPAs coming in. I don't drink water from tap. It's garbage. It's horrible. Tap water has not only just uranium in some places, but it's fluoridated. And we just had a study from the government accepted a case, a federal court found that fluoride decreases IQ. It is, what were the wordings, the findings from the court? It was something like an undue health risk to have fluoride. And they put fluoride in almost all tap water. So we just avoid that. I talk to people every single day about getting as much organic food. So these are the things that I call the easy ones, right? Clean food, clean water. Air is another piece of the puzzle that doesn't get talked about enough. Now, where I'm from, we have basements. If you haven't done a radon test, you need to do a radon test. And this is something missed by so many people because you're looking for basically a toxic radioactive gas coming from the floor. You'll never smell it. You don't see it. You don't know anything about it. But just a little bit of it's like smoking a pack of cigarettes a day. It's equivalent to your body. So you want to make sure that you're breathing clean air. You also don't want mold in your home. So run a ERMI test, which is a dust sample collection you can do at your own home. These are things that I love doing. So I create that really clean environment, but we're still going to run into toxins. We are absolutely still going to run into toxins. And that's where you want to just fortify your body. You know, it's the biggest things is just creating an environment that's safe, feeling safe in that environment, and then doing the work to clean up your body, just doing the cleanses. But once you've done those cleanses, once you've figured out your situation, once you've ran your labs and you've cleaned up the big mess, right? So if you've done whether it's the chlorine dioxide, you've done the parasite protocols, you've done the Lyme protocols, you got your mold cleaned out of your body. That's actually one of the things I should say there. But once you've done those pieces, it's just keep your environment safe, keep your mind right. But the one thing I'll say that I didn't mention here is I'm running into a lot of people today that have been through all kinds of protocols, all kinds of providers, and they've done what they thought was mold detox. And they've had mold bound by whether that be zeolites or carbons or charcoals, even medications, but no one's ever told them that mold can grow in your body as an organism. So they haven't done antifungals and they're not getting well. So if you've ran into every other roadblock, there's another one for you to look at.
Following Dr. Moore is Dr. Syed Haider, an MD trained in internal medicine with extensive hospital and ICU experience, who breaks down how we can address physical toxins in our bodies. Dr. Haider categorizes toxins into living pathogens and non-living toxins. He emphasizes that the critical first step is minimizing ongoing exposure, as many of us are taking in toxins faster than we can eliminate them. He gives practical solutions for cleaning up our environment, from water and air filtration to reducing EMF exposure through wired internet connections. Dr. Haider also reveals the shocking truth about chronic sinusitis, America's most common disease, which research has proven is caused by mold 99.9% of the time. Yet this information remains largely unknown to the public. To end this episode, we have Dr. Lee Merritt, who presents a revolutionary theory about cancer that challenges everything we've been taught. Dr. Merritt proposes that what we call cancer might actually be a collection of intracellular parasites. Not parasites swimming in the blood, but parasites living inside cells, creating colonies that we identify as tumors or metastases. These collections, she says, look remarkably similar to parasite egg sacs under microscopes. She points to the effectiveness of antiparasitic medications like ivermectin against cancer stem cells as evidence for her theory. Dr. Merritt also explains why so many different treatments appear to work against cancer despite having different mechanisms, because they're all addressing the underlying parasitic infection from different angles.
I'm Dr. Syed Haider. I'm an MD trained in internal medicine, which is basically medicine for adults. And most of my experience was in hospital medicine. So that means I was working in hospitals and ICUs and emergency rooms, and I worked all over the country. So I got great exposure to hospital systems that were small, large, poor communities, rich communities, just all across the spectrum. And I moved every few months. So I really got exposure to like dozens of hospitals. So let's talk about physical toxins. How do you start to address physical toxins? So again, we have to understand that there's living and non-living things that are toxic to us. We have pathogens which are like, bacteria, fungi, parasites, viruses, if you believe in viruses. So you have those, and then you have chemical toxins and heavy metals, all the different industrial chemicals that we're exposed to. And then you have energy toxins like EMF toxins, which I would group under physical as well. So they're part of the physical world. The primary thing to understand about dealing with toxicity the first step is to try to minimize your exposure to more toxicity because it keeps coming in, right? So if you're taking it out, but it's coming in faster than you're getting rid of it, you're going to have a problem. And a lot of us are being exposed to it coming in faster than we're able to take it out. So the first step is to slow down the incoming, toxicity. So that means cleaning up everything that you can in your life, making sure your water's clean, your air is as clean as possible, and your food is as clean as possible. So that's number one. And then, in terms of energy toxins, turning off the Wi-Fi and wiring your computer. So getting Ethernet and just plugging it in. And the same for your phone. So energy toxins, the closer you are, the worse they are, but it's an exponential function, right? So it drops off exponentially with distance. So no wonder people have like chronic sinusitis, which was proven like 20 years ago to be entirely caused by mold. 99.9% of the time, chronic sinusitis is mold. It's the most common disease in America. And no one realizes that the research has already been done. It's caused by mold. But should you kill the mold? Maybe not, because if you kill the mold, it'll release all the heavy metals that it's holding on to, and you will no longer be protected from the EMF that you may be exposed to, which is one of the reasons why it overgrew in the first place, right? So this is why you have to understand what's the real cause. Like, okay, fine, fungus causes chronic sinusitis. So what? Why is the fungus there? Okay, why wasn't it there before? So something changed. It's not that you just got exposed to fungus and it's such a super pathogen that like, if it happens to float into your nose, it's all over, it's all done. Things don't work that way. Almost all the time, it's not a super pathogen that's gonna kill everyone, right? It affects the people that it's there to help, okay? So ecosystems work like that. There's an interplay of all these various organisms, and they're all doing something to maintain the ecosystem. So the thing that looks like it's harming you is actually benefiting you, okay? So you have exposure to heavy metals, also soaked up, segregated outside your body by mold, into the mold itself. You kill the mold, it gets released. And probably parasites, bacteria, they're all doing something like this that we don't fully understand. Even viruses, if you believe in them, they're there and they're increased, this is kind of the terrain theory in a sense, right? So it's doing something for that terrain. It's doing something for the ecosystem. So you have to understand that. You have this standoff essentially in your body where you have all these toxins piled up, and then you have all these, maneuvers by your own body to like gain fat, for example, right? Like part of the reason a lot of people are overweight is because they're storing toxins, and if they lose the fat, the toxins enter the bloodstream and harm the body, right? So the body's like, well, I can't lose the fat because the fat is like a prison, convicts that I can't kill. I can't get rid of them. I can't expel them from my country, right? So it's just like illegal immigrants. And you're like, okay, it's going to cost millions and billions of dollars to get all these people out. I just don't have billions right now, so I'm just going to keep them in. But I'm going to like put them in prison somewhere if they're criminals, if they're harming the society. This is what your body's doing all the time. And so when you understand that, forcing yourself to lose weight or forcing yourself to expel toxin into the bloodstream doesn't make sense unless the border is open, okay? Or at least the border's open to send them out. After a few months, once you have been detoxifying and you've seen stuff, coming out, parasites dying off, things coming out in your stool, all of this, and you may not necessarily be getting better, but some things will have improved usually. At that point, then you can be like, okay, I'm going to start adding some things. But in the beginning, what you want to do is you want to eat the most nutrient-dense thing that's the most easily absorbed, versus things that are much less nutrient dense, even if they're good. I would say that just to be on the safe side, don't use those as they come. What you want to do is you want to combine the activator and the hypochlorite together. And so one recipe would be, so you have a big jar that seals on the top, with like a rubber seal or something, and you put a small glass inside. Inside the small glass, you would put 10 mLs each of the activator, and so part A and part B solution of chlorine dioxide. You activate it inside the small glass, and then you put the glass in the bigger jar, and around the glass you pour 300 mLs of water, pure water, and then you seal it, put it somewhere for 24 hours, and then you bring it back out and you open it up. And I think that's maybe it's 300 parts per million. Anyway, it's different. Anyway, there's different ways of doing this. What I do is with that, I take 1 or 2 mLs twice a day mixed into water and drink it. And it tastes the same as that activated solution because it absorbed all the gas over the 24 hours, but it doesn't make me feel sick. It's purified, right? Because the gas leaves the small bottle and then gets absorbed into the pure water. And then all you get is water with chlorine dioxide gas dissolved in it. Be very careful when you open it. Wear like maybe safety goggles and maybe even a mask because it's like noxious fumes that can damage your lungs. So anyway, we will be using toxin binders, and then we're going to be using things to stimulate the organs to, start to eliminate the toxins, and then things to kill the microbes that will be there, right? So you want to kill the mold. Chlorine dioxide can basically kill anything that you need to kill. Like I said before, colloidal silver can pretty much kill anything that needs to be killed. Alimax is great too. So, the concentrated stabilized extract of garlic, allicin. There's a guy in Florida sells something called allicin V that can be nebulized, made from garlic that's extracted, and also it can be taken orally. And there are obviously things like ivermectin, fenbendazole. Sometimes you need to go to that level for some parasites. And one of the key things actually that needs to be discussed more is that you can take something to kill all these microbes, but it may not penetrate where they are. And that's because of these, mucus layers that they develop, these, bacterial microfilms, microbial pathogen biofilms, and probably all these different pathogens, the viruses, the bacteria, the mold, everything. Even the parasites are probably all working together, right? The bad ones are probably all like working together within these biofilms. And in order to penetrate, you have to disrupt the biofilm. And actually, this is also another very important point that you can't just rely on even chlorine dioxide or colloidal silver or even ivermectin or fenbendazole. That can't be your primary approach to destroying these microbes. Your body has to get involved. Your own immune system has to help to penetrate, break up the biofilms, and then your own extended immune system, which is your own good microbiome, has to be supported because it will help to destroy the microfilms also. It may be actually the single greatest way of destroying the pathogenic microbes is by recruiting your good microbes to help you, which means your lifestyle and your diet and everything has to be optimized, right? That's really, like, we've tried giving some people who are really sick, ivermectin, fenbendazole, all this stuff, chlorine dioxide even, and nothing came out. They didn't expel any parasites. And then when they went and did the work, they did the groundwork, they did the sun exposure, they did the sauna, they did the enemas, and they ate properly, they eliminated all the inflammatory foods, and they stopped eating everything else, and they just focused, and they did the juicing, and they did all of that. It may not have been enough to start killing off all that stuff spontaneously, but then when you added chlorine dioxide or colloidal silver or et cetera, then the stuff starts to come pouring out, right? So a lot of people will take that stuff and nothing happens, and they're like, oh, yay, I didn't have a parasite problem. And, right? Like, yes. Probably everyone who hasn't taken anti-parasitic protocol has a parasite problem, all right? Where does it come from? It comes from people coming over the border. It comes from people who have pets. It comes from eating food, that was prepared by people who had parasites. Everyone has them, right? Unless you're like super, super healthy and your own immune system has been doing its job this whole time. But that's nearly no one, right? Even if you look amazingly healthy, it's very difficult, right? Even people who have been doing everything right and detoxifying and know all this stuff for like over a decade, there's still junk coming out of their liver, right? Occasionally, right? They'll still be expelling stones and sludge and stuff. So if you've been exposed to this stuff for 40, 50, for decades, it's pretty deeply ingrained, and, you'll get better, in the first 3 to 12 months, right? Depending on how sick you are. But then, you're not done with the job yet. If you want to really get, a full, cleaning, it takes a long time, and it's an ongoing process because it keeps coming in. You can't completely stop it from coming in. Unfortunately, it's impossible. You won't be able to live your life.
What if the anti-parasitic drugs are killing cancer stem cells? Like metformin is proven to kill cancer stem cells, and mebendazole is also, and curcumin is as well, and a few others, right? So what if cancer stem cells kind of act in a way kind of like a parasite, in that a stem cell is like a living thing, right? And a parasite is too. And so they're both living life. So you see what I'm saying? But then a cancer stem cell would act like a parasite.
Right, but you can't kill all your stem cells.
No.
So I mean, if you're saying that ivermectin kills the cancer stem cells, it doesn't kill all of them.
No, exactly.
So it's not killing the stem cell. It's killing in some stem cells. Now the question is, why is it killing those? Maybe it's because it's killing the parasite within the stem cell that causes the cell to go through apoptosis.
You're saying a parasite could be inside the stem cell?
Well, that's what they are. They're intracellular parasites. These are not parasites swimming around in the blood. We're not talking about that.
Yeah.
We're talking about intracellular parasites that under the microscope make these colonies, essentially, of these infected cells that we call metastases or solid tumors that look identical from parasite egg sacs.
Yeah.
So you're being colonized by a parasitic agent that causes, and what we call it cancer, but it's really just collections of parasitic agents. In favor of this, again, it's not just one fact. Again, you can come up with different facts. It's like I had this discussion with Mr. Richardson of RNC Nutrition, which has, I love this stuff. I love the almonds, but he just really doesn't think parasites are the whole thing. He says it may be part of it, and I said that's fine, but your company says that the almonds will treat it. Other people say this will treat it. This drug will treat it. This food will treat it. And the point I'm saying is, all these different things don't act the same way. And you cannot find a singular mode of attack that these things are doing. They're doing something, but what you can find throughout all the cancers we've looked at is evidence of parasites. And not only that, you can find it in other diseases that we didn't consider, like multiple sclerosis. And I think that's a big one. I mean, I think that one really opened up my eyes. It has to do with metabolism. It's not, that was Warburg's point, that cancer wasn't genetic, it was metabolic. Yeah. And then the researcher at Johns Hopkins that showed that it could be blocked by blocking one of the two pathways of metabolism. In other words, it depends completely on one pathway of metabolism. So, and it turns out that's the pathway that favors parasites. Everything that parasites like, cancer likes.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying all the different pieces of evidence fit parasites, and not all of them fit any other one treatment.
Yeah.
But the treatments are beneficial. The treatments are important. I'm not saying, I take my almonds every day from RNC Nutrition. I drink my urine every day.
Apricot seeds, but they're actually apricot seeds.
I said apricots. I said almond. Apricot seeds. Yeah. I eat those every day. I drink my urine. I do infrared therapy. So it makes sense to do all these things. But I think when we say about what the mechanism is, it helps to kind of go back in time and say, what do we really know? What have we really looked at and seen? And I also believe that these guys do predictive programming. And if you look at the people that know the occult science, they know more than we do about what's the way the world works. Did you ever see that little video of the 2012 Olympic opening in Barcelona?
Yeah.
Okay, most people noticed the blue balls that they're supposed to be COVID, I guess. This is 2012, and they had these actors dressed in these blue spiky balls that remind you of the CGI image of SARS-CoV-2 that they claim is, they may make you want to think it's electron microscopy, but it's actually just a CGI image. It's not real, but it's their poster child for SARS-CoV-2.
Like a composite of the Earth.
Yeah. So in 2012, they had this opening of the Olympics, and here's this. The first thing that happens is all these blue spiky ball round things come walking out, in their costumes. It's really creepy, and I get it. And so people are showing that. But what they miss is, along with that comes, above the crowd comes this big brown kind of a crescent moon shaped pillow. They're carrying this big crescent moon shaped pillow out there. And I'm thinking, that's got to mean something. What does that mean? And I thought about it. And then just by accident, I was looking in a book of parasitology. And there's a picture of Trypanosoma cruzi, the parasite of Chagas disease. And it looks pretty much like that brown crescent-shaped pillow they had. Not only that, if you look at what's happening to people after they take the vaccine, the symptoms of the myocarditis and the sudden death rate and the rate of unaffected people, it's all almost identical to Chagas disease. So that struck me, that they're showing us something. And then later in the video, you see these little black ribbons shooting out of the cells. What are those? You know, nothing that's there by accident. The slave ships. I mean, that certainly has something to do with Olympic, javelin throwing. So what's the mean? What's the black ribbon-like thing coming out of the bloodstream mean? Well, then you go back and you look at the researchers that from 1960, the German researchers, 1960s and 1970s, they were talking about cancer as parasites, and they were showing that all patients with cancer had parasites in their blood and in their interstitial tissue. And then they showed these pictures, and you could see these black ribbon-like things bursting out of the cells. So again, I'm looking at the preponderance of evidence, as they say in court. I'm just saying everything fits. They know that parasites are doing things to us, and I think cancer is a big one.
Wow. Yeah, amazing. And just coming back to the stem cell thing, if there's parasites in the stem cell, then which is fascinating to think about that. If they're in there, then it would make sense that would be why the antiparasitics are killing that, and then why people would reverse cancer if they kill parasites.
Here's another bit of evidence. One of the things that you hear periodically, and it was known a lot in the older days, but is that you can develop cancer in areas of trauma. Somebody gets hit real hard, and that's where they end up with their bone cancer or their muscle tumor, their myosarcoma or something, right in the area where they got bruised. How does that get explained by any innate mechanism? Well, one of the ways it can easily be explained with parasites is that we've seen parasites are initially in your vascular tree. They're contained, but if you break the vascular tree, then the parasite slips out of the vascular containment, and now it's in the muscle, or if you crack the bone, it's in the bone. And so that would explain that as well.
If a stem cell is not maturing properly because it's deprived of certain things that causes it to develop, then it's a living organism, but then is acting in a way that would be like a parasite. I'm not saying that this is the only mechanism, I'm just saying, like, what if this is possibly the reason?
But why isn't it maturing?
Because of a lack of the things that it needs for that maturation. In this case, it would be everything: cytokines, hormones.
But why are the others maturing? Because you don't have an all or none. You don't always have just complete aplastic anemia. You don't have always lack of complete leukopenia. In other words, your stem cells don't all go bad at once.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
And if it were a systemic problem, your cytokines are all over you. Your cytokines and your mineral supplements and everything. That's generalized.
Sure. So how could that be like happening with some cells and not others? I would say it's the research on the venoms as how they create the tumors, which is interesting. You're familiar, right? Like the glioblastoma study with finding that the alpha conotoxin, alpha cobatoxin in the mice, and then they got these glioblastomas or gliomas in days.
We're all riddled with parasites. So we probably all have some parasites.
Yeah.
And mice may be particularly prone to have them. We don't know. In other words, there's a difference between causing something to happen and allowing something to happen. So if the conotoxin stops some mechanism of control of whatever is already there, you don't know that by that study.
Yeah.
Because obviously other people get it without that.
Yeah.
Other animals get it without that.
Yeah.
There are a million different triggers you can get to cause cancer, but they don't always do it. So again, that's to me, that's more sketchy than saying there's something within us that is liberated by these things, that all these things liberate it in different ways, but they liberate something.
Got it. Yeah, and I would say that what if just the dysregulation in the body caused by toxicity means that there's just vulnerable points, and generally speaking, the body is universally seeking to complete the process, regenerate every single organ in your body. Like, just imagine a massive operation. You've got all these guys building this huge building, and they're all trying their best and they're all sending out, but then like you've just messed up the instruction, and then builders start falling off the buildings, but generally the whole structure is going up. It's just that some of those major messages are going wrong, and so there is a dysfunction. But generally, the body's still staying together, so it's not happening universally.
So then you would ask, if you were the builder, you'd ask, who's taking these messages? What's the messaging service? What are you guys doing? Because then you have to ask why, in some cases, the message isn't getting through. One of the things I've done is I've gone back, like people talk about the spike protein, and I'm just saying this is something I think people that can do this should do. All science starts with assumptions.
Yeah.
Those assumptions are not always right, and if they're wrong, then this whole thing falls apart. And so the problem is that we don't go back to the assumptions. You don't go back far enough.
Parasites are the silent invaders that are wreaking havoc on your body without you even knowing it. As Dr. Diana Wright and our other experts in this episode have revealed, parasites are linked to a variety of health conditions, from fatigue to digestive disorders to autoimmune conditions and even cancer. Parasites could most likely be the root cause of that health condition that you've been dealing with and can't get rid of for years now in your own life. Parasites are far more common than we've been led to believe. Studies show that nearly 60% of the global population has intestinal parasites, and with today's toxic environment, that number is likely even higher. These hidden threats don't just stay in your gut. They can invade your brain, muscles, liver, and heart, slowly compromising your health over time. Dr. Wright's groundbreaking insights are a call to action. Take your health into your own hands, understand the unseen invaders within, and take steps to eliminate them. This isn't about relying on pharmaceuticals or quick fixes. It's about addressing the root causes of disease and reclaiming the vitality that's been taken from you. Don't wait for a diagnosis. Take action today, because the true solution lies in knowledge, empowerment, and decisive steps toward a parasite-free life. Hey there, it's Jonathan. Thank you so much for watching this episode. It's an honor to have created it for you, and most importantly, use this information for yourself, for your loved ones, for your family. Your health and healing is just around the corner. I don't want you to miss out on what could absolutely change your life for the better. I am thrilled that we have such prolific tools that can help you and your loved ones to change your lives. I need your help. I need you to be able to reach the people in your life. My mission to help those around me is really only happens with people having a huge heart and love for others. And your love for the people in your life is what makes this work. It's what gets this information to the people that need it the most. So you can scroll down on this page and place your order while it's available. We've got so many amazing gifts here. Remember, you can claim the Red Light Therapy belt. It's a free gift. Use this for yourself if you have one already. Some of you have followed my work for a while. Some people will have this. If you do, it's a time to claim another one. These are gifts that you want to pass around to your friends and family. Make sure that they are willing to use it before you pass it to them. But look, better yet, just go over to their home and strap it on them and watch what benefits they get, and then you won't be able to keep them off it. And if you were lending it to them, they'll be asking if they can borrow it more often. And when they're over at your house, you could use these tools on your family and friends. And remember, even though it's a belt, that you could see that it covers a certain surface area on the body, but remember, this belt will actually cover all areas of the body because light is systemic. It's received by the body in the most profound way. And it's crazy to understand that because of the milliwatts delivered per centimeter squared, which is 95 at the surface, that is extremely high. Actually a lot higher than a lot of the biggest devices that people get. These lights are working so well to get the needed electromagnetic waves into the body that produce reactive oxygen species that cause these various processes that fuel the mitochondrial function. And so what we want to do is support your mitochondria more than anything else while you're seeking to either recover or achieve abundant health. Mitochondria is the linchpin and you can do nothing without it and everything with it. And so these energy powerhouses of the cell, they'll help heal you. They're supported by supplementation as well. So you really want to be taking tools that help to fuel the mitochondria and help to undergo the detoxification that you need to go through, and get these toxins out of these organs, like your liver and your kidneys and your gut. These are critical organs, and so you want to remove out of your intestines all the toxins, impacted fecal matter, chemicals, poisons. These are all interfering with mitochondrial function, especially in the liver, the kidneys, the heart. And our program is helping you systemically. The brain, these critical organs are there for you to help you, but they will not be able to thrive and operate at their optimal level unless you're activating your body with light and removing toxins with proper detoxification, with proper supplements. So that's a wrap, guys. So check it out, grab it while it's available, scroll down on the page to place your order. Remember, you're able to claim over $4,800 worth of free gifts here on this page right now when you place your order. I look forward to seeing you inside the program. Grab your red light therapy belt as a free gift. It's $400, but you don't have to pay for it. You can get it here for free, as well as the $400+ supplement protocol package, which is a total game changer, and you can claim it here on this page while it's available. Get all 8 formulas with the 60-day protocol, as well as get the printed books and the flash drive that has all the episodes on it, as well as your membership access. And you can also check out what we have in the silver package and in some of our other packages. Scroll down below to place your order while it's available, knowing that we will be selling out. We have such a demand for this right now, and I want you to be one of the people that get the health and healing that you deserve. Remember, often the one that the trophy goes to, the winner is the one that takes action, and the one that takes action promptly, and you don't put things off and you say, yes, that's for me. And so make sure to do that before we take away the discounts and bonuses, or we sell out, or either one of those could happen before the series ends. But just know that we plan to offer this during the series airs. So make sure to grab it while it's available. I look forward to seeing you in the bonus episode down below, so check it out. And I'm excited for all the changes and transformations that will happen in your life as a result of using this program. Thanks so much.